exchange rate closes at 740 to a dollar, the best closing rate since June 15. Google says Nigerians can now pay with Naira on Play Store. While app as a supply tightness view upsets concerns from rate hikes. This is Business Express coming to you from the studios of NTA's. I am Benny Adams. Good to have you join us. It's time to talk business and start by telling you that the Nigerian exchange rate on the investors and exporters window closed at 740 naira to a dollar, marking the highest level against the dollar since June 15th, when it concluded at 702 naira to a dollar. This substantial gain came as a welcome relief for most forex buyers, as it represents a significant jump from the 791.2 naira to a dollar rate recorded just a day earlier, and a major improvement from several days of weakness on the official window. The market has witnessed an intra-rate high of 800 naira to a dollar and an intra-day low of 730 naira to a dollar during this period. Meanwhile, the FX rate averaged 787 naira 1 kobo to a dollar. Thus, the past month has been characterized by exchange rate fluctuations, with values fluctuating between 770 naira to a dollar and 803 naira to a dollar. Adding to the improvement in data, the forex turnover for the day hit $153.02. That's talking about in millions, a substantial increase from $55 million recorded on the previous day. Notably, this stands as the second highest forex turnover since July 18, when it closed at $156.02, talking about in millions, coinciding with an exchange rate of 742.9 naira to a dollar. Now, the House of Representatives at Wednesday's plenary ruled in favor of allowing market forces determine foreign exchange rates in the country, while commending President Bola Ahmed Tinubu over the unification of the forex windows. This follows the rejection of a motion by Representative Benny Lar seeking federal government measures to stabilize the Nigerian currency and foreign exchange rate after an extensive debate.
Which is actually a good policy. I have nothing against the unified exchange system. But government must put in place deliberate policies to stimulate economic growth in the country. We have to stimulate our own domestic production.
It's asking us to go against what we initially supported. And that is the issue of marginalization and the floating of the naira, which all Nigerians supported.
My dear colleagues, let me ask one simple question. Are you telling us not to urge the federal government to take steps to stabilize the naira?
The issue of exchange rate cannot be done by fiat. It has to be done by the market forces. You cannot say today naira should be 200 or 100 naira.
And the presiding officer puts the question.
Those in support of the prayers of this motion say aye. Aye.
And those against say nay. The nays have it. Honorable colleagues.
The House adopted.
The National Assembly correspondent Mitari Ikpen also reports that the Green Chamber has set up an ad hoc committee to investigate alleged abuse and management of the proceeds of peacekeeping operations in Nigeria from 2010 to 2022. Now, Vice President Kashim Shettima has urged foreign investors to take advantage of the opportunities in Nigeria, declaring that the country is now ready for business. The Vice President made a call in his remarks at the side event of the ongoing UN Food Systems Summit, themed Scaling Up of a Multi-Stakeholder Collaboration and Investment in the Implementation of the Food Systems Pathways in Nigeria. He noted that the combination of Nigeria's young, energetic population and agenda of the new administration placed the country far ahead of others in the region. Vice President Shettima said Nigeria has the capacity of transforming the demographic bulge into demographic dividends. Vice President expressed a hope that the expected transformation can take place on the back of what he described as building blocks that already exist in Nigeria. The statement added that the building blocks were listed to include the government's recent declaration of a state of emergency on food security, moving food and water to the purview of National Security Council, and the country's renewed commitment to food and nutrition since the Nutrition Conference of 2022, the National Food and Micronutrient Intake Survey, and the National State-Level Food Systems. Now, not a month after Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's inauguration on May 29th, he said out of the major economic reforms being advocated for by public analysts and international financial institutions, there are, however, deep structural issues to be addressed before Nigeria's economy can deliver prosperity for Nigerians. Experts also say the reforms also must come at a cost for citizens' well-being or the rule of law. President Tinubu inherited a spot-rate Nigerian economy with gross domestic product growth rate for 2022 at 3.1% and for the first quarter of 2023 at 2.31%. Nigeria's recovery from COVID-19 induced trade deficit has also been slow. The 2022 trade surplus at only $2.585 billion pales in comparison to 2014 $54.1 billion. We can go on and on, but now on today's conversation we will be looking at the exchange rate and its impact on exports. And joining me to discuss this via Zoom is Dr. Chijoke Ikechukwu. He is the MD and CEO, Dignity Finance Investment Limited. Mr. Ikechukwu, you're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's been a while. Good to have you this morning.
My pleasure always.
Great. Investors and multilateral institutions have welcomed the CBN, talking about the central bank's unification of the exchange rate, which has been on for a while. On the short run, how do you see the impact so far, particularly on exports?
It was expected that in the short run, the exchange rate was going to be this high. We're expecting that many investors and many opportunities are going to come in the long run to actually stabilize the exchange rate. Because, you know, the announcements came, of course, everybody embraced it, and of course, it was a welcome development. And so we expect that in the long run, the exchange rate is going to ease off and is going to start coming down. But of course, you know that a lot of nations actually devalue their currencies consciously in order to grow exports. A situation where you have to promote your exports, all you need to do is to even consciously devalue your currency. So you could see that right now, a lot of exports are going on just because of the exchange rate that we're having. Of course, when exchange rate is high, it is more profitable for any Nigerian to start exporting instead of importing. So we are actually supposed to be driving the export right now and put all the measures in place to grow our export in order for us to balance out what is actually going on. Any exporter that starts doing business right now is going to benefit far, far more than selling to the local market or importation. So this is actually meant to grow and develop and expand the export market in order for you to have good and optimal benefit in what business you're doing. So this exchange rate is actually supposed to grow the export business, and because it's an opportunity actually for all exporters. Even if you are not in any export business, you have to make yourself an exporter right now in order for you to take advantage of the exchange rate, and that will actually balance off over the years and in the long run.
Well, confirming your position on how the unification has actually improved exports in practical terms, the first half of the year for NEPC, it says the non-oil export has generated a whopping $2.539 billion, just falling short of, just little short of expectations. You will agree with me that this number is also improving with this unification. What else do we need to do? Is it about value addition, or is it about gaining access to the required market we need?
Okay, so what we need to do is to have a lot of incentives, for export business, because we can actually export both the agricultural produce and a lot of finished products that we have in the country. So if we encourage the local production capacity through many avenues to improve and encourage the local production capacity, then we'll also encourage export business. The way to encourage export business is just to put all the enabling factors that will encourage exporters and make them seamlessly export goods and services. If this is done, we're going to be having a very good balance of trade over the years, and we're going to be having, of course, once we have balance of trade, we also have a very good balance of payment. So if we do this, I expect that more and more people will now start facing export business instead of just relying on the local market or instead of importation. But in order for us to also improve the exchange rate, because we also need to improve it, we just have to ensure that those revenue, foreign revenue base that we have, of course, the oil, we need to try to produce up to our capacity. And of course, the allowed capacity by OPEC, so that the gap that we are missing there, we'll have to start generating the revenue from that end. That way, it will also help the exchange rate to come down. Because while we are trying to grow exports using high exchange rates, we also know that there is a high inflation rate, which is being created by this exchange rate. So we need to balance the two of them for us to have a very good economy.
Okay, great. Talking about trying to achieve more like a balance of payments and improving the volume of exports that we should. Yes, you mentioned oil scheme, but yes, also you agree with me that the non-oil sector is actually measuring up. What do you think we should actually do more in the non-oil export area to ensure that we increase these exports, taking advantage of this unification of the exchange rate, so that we can see how we can just try to balance payments?
A lot of countries are taking positions in taking advantage of AFCTA platform. The whole of Africa is a market, a very large market. So let everybody start looking beyond the shores. Even though we have a very good big market in Nigeria, every manufacturer, every producer of one thing or the other, every agricultural person must be looking at beyond the shores of Nigeria in order for us to start earning foreign currency. Because only when we start pushing these products outside the country, which is actually to the advantage of exporters right now, shall we start having the benefits of having inflows of foreign currency. And with the unification exercise, the major benefit is the fact that you're going to get good value for your money through the I&E window. It's going to give you the value that is the current market value instead of the then government rates that you would have been paid with. So this is the best way and the best time to do export, and so that you can take maximum benefit from that exercise.
Okay, talking about the flow of foreign exchange into the country, you talked about balance of payments. What else should we do? Aside balance of payments, we should talk about also the balance of trade. Yes, we keep talking about value addition to products we export. Yes, you mentioned exporters need more incentives. We have incentives on ground, but it never can be enough. What should we expect from the private sector? Everything seems to tilt towards the efforts by the federal government through the NEPC and some other of its parastatals. Where is the private sector in all of this as we move towards taking the larger market share of this AFCFTA market we're looking up to?
You know, for many years we were an import-dependent country. And so many of our business people lacked enough knowledge in the export business. So that is why many times we just export goods that will be rejected or that will be priced very low. And so we have a whole lot of raw materials in this place, which actually are exported outside this place to the extent that these raw materials are used for one thing, production of one thing or the other. So what we have to do is just to know that we have enough raw materials in the agricultural areas where we can use, of course, for example, we're talking about cocoa. Why do we have to continue to export cocoa when we export it to countries that are going to use them to do chocolate drinks or chocolates, for that matter? So the value addition you're talking about is the fact that with all the raw materials that we have in surplus in our country, we need to start growing various factories that are going to benefit from these raw materials to produce enough for the export. So if we export the raw materials, say sesame seed or cocoa or cashew nuts, we should also be exporting the products that are being manufactured using these raw materials in order for us to have a wider market of export base. You know, so these are the things we need to do. But, you know, when you also talk about private sector, there has to be exchange, there has to be interest rate involvement in this. People are going to borrow money. And you don't borrow money when the interest rate is high. So with the kind of MPR we have today, it may not encourage this kind of borrowing. So we need to have, using the BOI or some other institutions that actually will fund such manufacturing, the manufacturing sector, to be able to encourage people who want to build factories right now, and of course, wipe off something like excise duty completely so that people can produce at a very low cost and use the raw materials that we have for the export market. Many times, some of the multinational companies that we have today used to have export departments. So most of the things they manufactured, say toothpaste, detergents and things like that, many of them were exported. So I do not know why many of them are not exporting most of the things they produce today. So the more we export, the more we produce, the more we export. And the more we export, the more we earn foreign currency. And these are the things, these are the measures that are going to improve our position in terms of getting benefits.
Okay, Mr. Chijoke, briefly, before I let you go, you made mention of the need for this value addition, and you also mentioned the increase, the recent MPC hike in NPR, talking about a 25 basis points increase, which has increased the cost of borrowing. Now, should we be looking, talking about manufacturers now, should we be looking at grants to get to support manufacturing, or we should go borrowing on single digits like some of the development finance institutions get to provide for us in this country at this time?
Honestly, I don't encourage grants, because we know when we talk about grants, the people, all the people who are in certain places who were never manufacturers will become manufacturers on paper. So we're going to be talking about single-digit interest rates, which is already being offered by an institution like Bank of Industry and probably Nexim Bank. I don't know what rates they offer. So we need to encourage people to know, to educate people to know, for them to know that they can actually access these funds. Probably what BOI we need to do is just to make their conditions a little more friendly, to encourage more people to come and access those loans, so that they will take advantage of the single digit interest rate. Because when we talk about interest rate with banks, that rate does not affect BOI, and so people should be encouraged to go to a place like BOI and collect loans and get into manufacturing and manufacture for the local market and for the export market.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Chijo Keke for sharing your thoughts with us at this particular point in time. And for those out there who are listening, well, you heard it all. Go for single interest, single digit interest rate rather than just embracing the grants. But when the grants come, go for them so that we'll get the real sectors of our economy going. Thank you. And moving on, very much. Gold hits 1 week high on soft dollar after Powell's comment. Let's see how other commodities are trading on the international market. And the Central Bank of Nigeria says more than 20 million people have so far registered and have the e-Naira wallet. But the level of activity on the digital platform remains low. Acting CBN Governor Folashodun Shonubi said the Apex Bank will continue to review and improve the digital currency to boost its acceptability.
Tweak, and we continue to change the model of people. So we continue to talk to them. The volumes increase, and we learn with each passing day. We are reviewing the model, and we think soon, definitely before the end of the year, you'll see significant growth and changes, because the feedback we've gotten from the public and the marketplace has been distilled, and we're listening to them, and we believe it's going to have an impact on the adoption, and then maybe we'll have less new Naira notes to print.
Now, Google says on Wednesday that Nigerians can now make payments on its Play Store using the local currency, that is the Naira. This followed its partnership with Valve, the largest domestic card scheme in Africa, to make digital transactions on Google Play Store easier and more accessible for Nigerians. As of today, Google said Nigerians can use their Valve cards to make purchases on the Google Play Store, strengthening the digital ecosystem in Nigeria. Under this new arrangement, Google will process Valve transactions within Nigeria. These transactions will be undertaken in Nigerian Naira and treated as local transactions by the country's banking institutions. And now a quick look at the global market, where European stocks open higher after a Fed hike. That is the European Central Bank decision ahead. Let's join Nneka Oko for an update.
Asia Pacific stocks traded mixed this Thursday after the U.S. Federal Reserve raised rates to their highest level in more than 22 years, while leaving the door open for further tightening. Japan's Nikkei 225 climbed 0.68%, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index traded 1.35%, while in mainland China, the Shanghai Composite ticked down 0.2%. European stock markets opened higher Thursday as investors digested a Federal Reserve rate hike and geared up for the European Central Bank's latest decision. The DAX was up by 0.11% in early trade, with the CAC 40 of France 0.44% higher and UK FTSE marginally positive. Overnight on Wall Street, the S&P 500 futures were little changed after the Federal Reserve instituted a quarter percentage point hike, bringing rates to the highest level in more than 22 years. Futures linked to the Dow Jones Industrial Average traded flat, while the S&P 500 futures added 0.3%, while futures connected to the Nasdaq 100 rose 0.4%. Early figures from African markets point to a positive open this Thursday.
Thank you for being here, and this is where we end this edition of Business Express. Business Express returns tomorrow at 3 p.m.